do a fairly quick and dirty overview on how to assemble one of these chest boxes. This one's the AT-AT driver. And aside from all the additional greaves and stuff that goes on the front, including this plate here, I'll do a separate video on how to do the decals and stuff on that. But for the purpose of this video, it will be basically the assembling of this. And it's actually pretty simple for the most part, but I've done a bunch of them, so anyway. Okay, so first, here's all your pieces. You have your bottom piece and your top piece. And I've already put these on the belt sander so that these edges are mostly straight. And then when you trim these out, as you can see here, I trim it just enough because this is your this is the line that you kind of have to follow. So when you put them together, you want a little bit of a lip over here on the side, as you can see right there. And that tells you how far down the top it's going to go on the bottom piece. So you've basically got like that line right in there, give or take, which is pretty close. And then once you get to the back, you have your other line here, because we'll glue the front part here first. And then once that's glued, then you'll be able to just kind of push it down so that it lines up, so that it's more or less straight over here. Because once you get that on there, all these actually fit in pretty tight. These boxes are really not all that big. So, but anyway, first things first, make sure you have all this all sanded down smoothly. You don't really want any rough edges, even though none of it's going to be seen, but you want it to sit as flush as possible up on the inside. I use one of these tools. If you don't know what this is a deburring tool. And I use this on the daily. I have a couple of them, and I'll link it. You can get them on Amazon, so I'll put a link down in the description area. It'll be the best 13 to 15 bucks you've spent if you're going to be working with plastic, ABS, hips, or whatever. It's just great. Like I said, I use it all the time. So anyway, so once you have all these cleaned up, in the kit comes some spacers. Now, these spacers are purely just to strengthen the walls on the box. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some glue here. Almost got out of this one. Just put some glue in there. And then we're going to glue this on up. And you're going to want to push it all the way up so that you have a gap here. You want there to be a gap here for sure. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So we'll just go ahead and clamp these down. And then we'll do the other side. So we're going to be drilling these out a lot anyway. But again, you want to make sure there's a gap here. And so that one is sitting there drying. I only round off the edges so it'll go further down. But as you can see, this one's these are too long. So what we're going to do is we're just going to mark in here. And you want it to be below that line right there. So we're just going to give it a mark about like that. And we're just going to score it a couple times. Bust it off. And clean off that edge so that way when you put it in there, it is also again below this little line here. So we'll just go ahead and glue that in. again, this is strictly just to strengthen the inside of the box, where our donuts will be mounting here later, especially on the top piece. So we'll go ahead and mark this one. Doesn't have to be exact, obviously. None of this is going to be seen, so it doesn't even have to be pretty. But I still like to clean up all the edges. Almost out of glue there, so I'll just go ahead and get it in there and get it all clamped like so. So this one's probably already pretty good. Put all these guys over. So while this one is still setting for a couple of minutes, out of scrap acrylic, I make a lot of templates. So now that we have our pieces that are glued in here, and again, so this gap, here, I'll get to that in a second. So I'll use my template here, and with my fingers find the relative middle. And then we'll go ahead, drill a pilot hole on each side. So those should be set already. Doesn't take that CA glue that long. So the reason you want these gaps down in here is when you put this part up in there, the little bit of meat that you left here, so there's no gap, when it fits up in there, it can still go all the way up. And as you can see, I left a little too much on this one, so I'll have to trim it down a little bit, which is just basically that part. You should be able to just trim it like that. And there you go. So when you're we're not ready to glue it yet, but you can see this natural line here that's in the mold, and that's right about where you want to put this guy, right there. But you'll be able to see a little bit better once we get this opened up, and it'll make probably a little more sense. So moving on, let's go ahead and drill out these pilot holes. And that should be done there. I like to deburr pretty much every hole that I drill. It's a little OCD because most of it's not even going to be seen, but everything will sit flush. This is another neat little tool I got for Christmas a few years ago. The battery literally lasts forever. I forget to plug it in all the time, and this thing just always works. And it's got a whole lot of torque for, I call it a handheld. And I think they're less than 20 bucks. But anyway, I recommend these too. Not sponsored by Black & Decker, by the way. Okay, so the next step. So these I've already made, as you can see. So basically what they are is I use PVC fittings that you get at Lowe's. I grind off the little locking tab here on them. And I usually sand the face. There's little numbers and stuff on here. I sand those off also. So these I end up drilling a little bit bigger, but not a big deal. But I generally will drill out the donuts just so that they fit, because the other PVC part that goes with it fits in there quite nicely. And then you can hook your hose up to it. I make a custom greave that goes in there that actually screws into the end of the hose, but has the PVC end, so that way the hose is easy to put in and easy to pull out. So once I've drilled out the holes for the donuts, I put a little CA glue on the lip here, and then I put the donut on like here, and then once the CA glue has set, I flip it over, and then with hot glue, I just hot glue the inside. I don't use hot glue for a lot of things, but it's perfect for this. This donut will never come off. You'll destroy it before this thing ever falls off, ever. So now the next step is to drill out the holes that are going to go so we can put these in the side. And that's the biggest reason why I put these guys in here. To strengthen it up, because that's where, while you're wearing it, you're going to be twisting and pulling it out there anyway. So take this hole saw. What size is this? It's 1.5 inches. It's just slightly smaller than the PVC. So because you want these to fit as snugly as possible in there. So of course they don't make a hole saw that's the exact size that I need, so I have to get a little creative and force it a little bit. So I'll go ahead and drill the first hole here on the side. So now that we're all the way through, with our trusty little deburring tool, it's going to clean up the edges. And if you apply some pressure, it'll actually make the hole bigger too at the same time. So it's a little bit extra work, of course, but you really want this to fit in here nice and snug. And then worst case scenario, we'll use a stepper bit. And we'll want to round it out enough just so that will slip in there nice and snugly. Glue job came apart a little bit, but that's not a big deal. Almost there. And there you go. So that's what you want. Relatively centered on both ends, and goes all the way through. And now you can see by adding the little spacer here, it strengthens this sidewall, because again, you're going to be pulling your hoses in and out to pack it up and stuff. So we'll go ahead and do the other side now. Ourselves for later. The hole doesn't have to be pretty. Most of the time it's not. Oof. Almost just smacked myself in the face. So we're going to help it along a little bit here. The stepper bit again. Again, you want just big enough for fitting to be nice and snug in there. You don't want it flopping around. And so now we have both sides of the box. Has our little guys in it. And then also in the kit, I include these little donuts. It's basically ABS that I just cut 1-inch slugs out of. And when they're cut, the ABS is just slightly smaller. So what I do is, these are inside. This goes around it. And then once you glue that into place, this is literally never coming off. It's not twisting around. It's not moving. It's permanently permanent. So, and that's these are included in the kits also. So, basically have those done. So as you can see, let me wipe this off a little bit. So next, as you can see, I already drew a rectangle on there, but you take your pre-cut plate and you lay it on there so that it looks evenly spaced on both ends, there and over here. And just hold it, and with a pencil or Sharpie if you want, just draw a little rectangle, and then that'll give you obviously the exact inner dimension of your plate. But really what you want to do is you want to cut it a little bit wider than that, because it's going to be covered first of all, and you want the back of this to be a little bit bigger so you don't see any of the box itself behind it. So I'm going to go ahead and with the sharp knife, I'm going to go ahead and cut this out over here. So we should be able to pretty much work it here. Once you score, snap it out, and just like that. And then we'll go ahead and with my trusty deburring tool, let's go ahead and clean these edges all up and do it on the inside, because we want clean edges always. Well, mostly always. So now you have your cutout for the lens that I include, or a light kit that hopefully one day I'll have ready. I know there's a couple other makers that make them that'll fit in here. So once you put this on there, it's nice and open, and you don't see any of the box edge at all. And like I said, I'll do a separate video for doing all the decal work, because assembling this plate with the decals and all the other greaves and stuff like that, that's a whole different discussion. So let's see. So now that we have our holes cut out to the dimensions we want, everything is looking pretty good here. Go ahead and put some more glue in here, because it came up a little bit, just for good measure. Go ahead and clamp that for a minute. So now, I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll glue the front part to the top part. Wipe some of this glue out, because you don't want it to stick there quite yet. Like I said, make sure you have this gap here. I think a little bit of this on this side is still sticking up a little bit, so we'll go ahead and trim this down. Just to nip any possible issues in the bud. You'll also notice, you see this line here, this line right here. That's basically, you don't want to see anything above that. So when you put this together, that should fit just up inside there like that on both sides. And then the bottom edge of the top piece should fit right in there. So this is another good opportunity. Once you're fitting it, you can see how much of this is sticking up. So we'll go ahead and we'll mark this here, that's clearly in the way. So now we have a new cut line here. What we're going to do is we're going to cut it all the way down to here, because none of this is seen anyway. Peel it away. Clean up our edges. So we'll put it together. Like so. And when you, I don't know if you can see down inside there quite yet, right there in that area, you can see how it's notched, and our little piece will fit in there quite nicely. So it wouldn't even hurt to bring this down a little bit more. Remove some material. That should be all good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a sanding block, and I'm just going to rough up the edges here a little bit where they're going to be touching in order to better glue together. Wipe it down. And we'll do the same in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put it together here. Make sure we're lined up. Oh, you can see that lined up right there, just along these edges right here, and that should be perfect right there. So what we'll do is just take a little bit of blue tape, hold it down, and just glue it there so it stays. Like I said, once the front is glued, we'll be able to turn the back and level it out on both sides separately, and then glue it there. So it'd be like that. So in order to make this easier, again, we'll just check and make sure that our lines are good. And I'm going to put some glue down in here. So I'm going to allow it to drip down. I don't know if you can see that. Kind of encourage it to go down in there a little bit. But we don't want it dripping down there, obviously. So we'll set it on its side. So that way it stays in that area. We're going to give that a minute to set. While that's kind of drying. So I've already got these trimmed down more or less. These will sit on the edge here like that. A little bit better. Go ahead and deburr on the inside. On both of these guys. We can always go and use our little guy here to try to clean up the edge without boogering it up, which is usually kind of hard. So we can just take a sanding block, just clean up that edge. So in general, when making these boxes, or it's a tie chest box, really the bottom ones should be slightly shallower than the top ones. On here, they're more or less the same size. But once you get one of these in place, then you put this one on, it will still be a little shallower, obviously, because this is a little more narrow here. So you can kind of see by that angle. All right, so I think our glue is probably down in there in good spots. Still looking pretty good there. So I'm going to go ahead and put some glue down in here. And I'm going to bring it down to the line, give or take, right there, so that's lined up. And clamp on it to hold it there. Go down a little bit more. Should be pretty good right there. This is not a very good clamp. This one's better. So you really don't want the glue dripping down here. You can see it, but we're actually going to cut this more out here in a minute. Again, I have a template that I use. This is the template. So we'll go ahead and try to put some down in here. Almost out here. Let it drip down there, and basically we're just gonna kind of help it over there a little bit, and then put a clamp over here. This one should be holding just fine. Let's get one that's a little more tighter and aggressive over here. I'll let that hold for a second. Let's see. In the meantime, while we're waiting, and it doesn't take the glue very long, I'm just going to go ahead and drop some glue down in here and the other seams. Okay, let's see. Take that guy off. So now we're going to go ahead and cut the rest of the back out. And we're also going to drill the mounting holes at the same time, which is this 1/8 inch drill. So in order to help keep it straight, I'm just going to put a rivet in there just to hold it and keep it honest. Another one in. And we got to drill these holes out anyway, so if you actually get my armor kit along with the box, all these holes line up. I use this same template for that too. So we'll go ahead and start scoring. So now we're all open here on the back, and you can get a better view of the inside now. You can see down in here, and you can see again where I was pointing out where the need for the gaps and stuff. So again, the trusty little deburring tool. Let's go ahead and just clean up the edges a little bit. Not very pretty on this one, but none of this is seen. You're not actually going into space or in the air, or for these purposes actually driving an AT-AT walker, unfortunately. Anyway, there we got the inside, so we can move this tape off the front. And as a general rule, I drill these holes out just a tad bigger. And as usual, go ahead and deburr them. Clean up the edges if you want a little bit. They don't come out too clean. Like I said, this part actually getting mounted to the chest, so I mean you're not going to see the back. But that doesn't mean that we don't, want it to look destroyed either. So now that we have full access to the inside from the back, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some glue in these other areas now that I couldn't really get to for better strength. These seams here. Again, right down in here, where the top and the bottom meet, that's where you want to put some glue. You can also drop some glue down here in these corners. The thing is, you just have to be careful. Once you get it down in there, you want to lay it on its side or upside down, so that way the glue goes this way and doesn't come down through any of the gaps or anything like that. So I'm not really too much worried about any of this. I'm going to clean it off, and this is going to be painted a light gray anyway. So that also helps hide some of the imperfections and stuff. So while we're waiting for that, just clear some stuff out of the way. And yeah, it's starting to look like a chest box now. So just as a test look, slide those in. So you have those on there. The plate goes on. Now, ideally, if you ever would want to put lights in here, which I would recommend, obviously, generally what I do is this particular one, I usually mark like right around right there. And while it's out, obviously, I cut that off, so there's just a little bit of a nub that's actually visible that's sticking in there. I don't know if you can see that there. Let's see. See down in there. And then I usually will send half as wide donuts, just enough that you can put it on there and glue it to help strengthen it up, because I think that's actually pretty important, the added strength to go in there, because again, you're going to be twisting and stuff, and with all this added structure in here, it makes them very, very sturdy. Be really hard to break it. So we'll go ahead and take these out. And actually, I think that's it for this part of the build. So if anybody has any questions, you can hit me up on our Facebook, Pilot Bay 369, or you can comment here on the video on our YouTube channel, and we'll take it from there. I'll do some follow-up videos again on how to do the decal kit over the front piece. Not only the decal, but all the greaves also, because you can pretty much install everything on this before you actually put it on the box. But I generally recommend not doing it quite that way. I usually wait and put these guys on after, because I drill holes on the back side of these and this. So this greave is actually screwed on in the back. See, so you can see the inside of one here. This is what the back side looks like. So I drill holes there so I can backfill them with glue to help better secure them. And then that one's back screwed in. And then also the greave up here on top of the little triangle, as you can see, is also screwed in. And then there's the red opaque acrylic that I include, that I hot glue, usually just in a couple of corners so that it will stay in there. But if you wanted to remove it to put a different light kit in it, it would be pretty easy to take out. So that it actually obviously looks red on the front. So, and then I usually drill holes when I mount these from the back so I can backfill them with glue also. And then I think that's it actually for this particular build portion of the box. Again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to hit us up on our Facebook, Pilot Bay 369. I'll link a couple of things. Like I said, I'll link to the Amazon for this tool. This will be the best $15 you ever spent. And always have sharp blades. Very sharp blades is very important. All right, this is part 1. Thanks.